Now for our story. Supper had been earlier than usual tonight at the Lane farm in order to allow plenty of time for driving Lisa Fenner to the station. At 8:30, Lisa was taking the train for Chicago and the new life which Aunt Mary hoped would lead the young woman back to happiness. Lisa and Peggy were upstairs now making last-minute preparations for the trip. Lefty Larkin had disappeared on some project of his own, having said goodbye to Lisa earlier, and Aunt Mary and her son Randy, who had recently returned home from overseas, had tidied up the kitchen. Now Randy neatly hangs up the dish towel, sits down at the kitchen table while his mother performs those last few tasks which restore the pleasant room to its usual spotless order.
Well, everything's shipshape, Mom. Why don't you come sit down?
Oh, just a second, Randy.
Oh, Mom, is there any coffee left? I could stand another cup.
Yes, there's plenty. I'll have a cup with you. But, wouldn't you rather go in the other room?
Oh, no. I like it right here. This kitchen is one of my favorite hangouts.
It is nice, isn't it? I've always thought a kitchen should be a cheerful-looking place. After all, a woman spends most of the time in it.
What I like about yours, Mom, is it looks lived in. You know, some of these modern deals look like chemistry laboratories, as if they did the cooking in a beaker over a Bunsen burner.
This may be pretty strong.
You know me, Mom. If the spoon stands up in it, that's for me.
Probably isn't good for you so strong. But I'm the same way. The blacker the better.
Uh-huh. That coffee we had overseas, that's when I got homesick. Oh, I suppose it was all right, but it wasn't like yours, Mom. Yeah, it's funny the things you long for most when you're away from home. Not so much the big things, but the little ones seem important.
I know. It's all the little ones added up that make a home.
That's it. I used to dream about doing just what we're doing right now. Sitting at the kitchen table with you and drinking a cup of coffee.
And I used to dream about having you here to do it. We've been very lucky, Randy.
Yeah, Mom.
Well, dear, now that you've been home a while, have you decided what you want to do? Lefty told me you'd mentioned something to him about trying to make up your mind.
Yeah. Well, I figured if I did intend to go in for anything special, this would be the natural time to make the break before I settle down anywhere.
Oh, yes, I think so, too.
Well, Mom, I think I've made up my mind. I think I know just what I want to do.
Well, I'm glad, dear. Do you want to tell me about it?
Oh, sure. I was planning to tell you anyway. Well, I want to stay here on the farm, Mom. It's where I belong, where I want to be.
Oh, Randy. I'm so glad.
Are you really, Mom? Sure you want to have a big lummox like me underfoot all the time?
Oh, nothing in the world I'd like better. You know that.
Mom, I'm really looking forward to getting things in shape. Got a lot of ideas. And most of them will take a very small amount of money and a big amount of labor.
Anything you want to do, Randy. Your judgment has always been good. Oh, dear. You've no idea how pleased I am. It makes me so happy that you want to be home. That you have an appreciation of the simple, everyday things in life which make for true happiness.
Well, if I have, Mom, I got it from you.
No, thank you, dear. You know, when you were little, and then when you were in high school, too, people were always asking me what I wanted you to be. They couldn't understand it when I told them I didn't care what you decided to do. I was only interested in how you did it.
I remember how sorry I used to feel for a guy whose parents made all his plans for him. Half the time, something the fellow himself had no interest in at all.
I've always felt it's a great mistake to force a child into something. You can guide them, give them a sense of values, yes. But a lot of unhappiness is caused by people who are too ambitious for their children. Don't give them a chance to follow their own direction.
That's right.
So depressing to me to see a person with a bent for one certain thing having to do something else. You know, that's why I've been so concerned about Lisa.
Yeah. She's pretty much wrapped up in her dancing, I guess.
Naturally. It's the thing she loved to do. Of course, the main trouble now is she's lost her faith in herself.
Well, I guess you get out of practice pretty easy.
Yes, but she's got this idea that the reason she and Lance were successful was because of him. She doesn't think she can do it alone. I'm counting on Dell Shipley, though. Once Lisa gets started, finds out she can do it, the worst will be over.
Mm-hmm. Mom, do you think there's much chance for the two of them to get together again?
Lisa and Lance?
Uh-huh.
I don't know, Randy. Lisa's very strange about it. Apparently, she has a dreadful feeling of guilt toward him. Feels she couldn't face him.
She hasn't given you any idea why, has she?
No, she won't even talk about it. And it's hard to say. Might be something she's imagined, built up in her own mind.
She's such a sensitive little kid.
Yes, that's it. But, on the other hand, I think this isn't entirely imaginary. Whatever it was she did, Lisa herself believes it's a tremendous obstacle. I only knew it would make it so much easier to help her.
Well, Mom, you've done a wonderful job so far. These last few days, she's been a different girl. Well, this morning, she and Peggy were up there just chattering away, having a fine time.
Yes, I know. And it's been good for Peggy, too.
Sure.
Having someone near her own age to talk to. You know, Jane Plummer's fine, but she's so busy with her teaching, she doesn't have much time. And then so many of her old school friends are married now. They have babies and their own interests to occupy their time. I think Peggy feels rather at a loss.
No, that's too bad. She ought to be married herself. It's a darn shame her life got butchered up the way it did.
Oh, but she's working things out, Randy.
Yeah. If this Bill Meade gets himself straightened out, that'd help. You know, I still haven't met that guy.
He's a fine boy, Randy.
According to Nicholas Dorn, he's okay.
One thing I like about him is that he learns from his mistakes. And he doesn't try to justify himself when he makes them either.
That's kind of a funny situation, Bill and Nicholas being such good pals, even though they're both in love with the same girl.
Yes. It's a very unusual situation. People aren't always that tolerant. I'm thankful Bill and Nicholas are. Oh, my goodness, I wonder what time it's getting to be.
Yeah, we ought to be leaving pretty soon.
Yes, we don't want to rush. Why don't you call up to Lisa and see if she's ready?
Okay.
Oh, and you better bring down her bag, too. I'll rinse out these cups and be ready in a jiffy.
Right, Mom. Don't worry now. We'll make it in plenty of time.
Half an hour later, Randy parked the little pickup truck at the side of the railroad station, helped Lisa and Aunt Mary out, and went off to check the train's arrival. The two women strolled over to the platform.
Here we are. We didn't have any too much time to spare either. Train should be along in a few minutes.
Oh, I stood on so many station platforms waiting like this, not knowing quite what was ahead. And then you hear the train whistle. Your heart begins to pound a little, and you know you're going to a new place. I used to love it when Lance and I were together, but this time...
Why don't you think of this time as another beginning? You're going toward a new life. And I'm sure it's going to be a happy one, my dear.
I don't know, Aunt Mary. If it is, it'll be your doing. You've been wonderful.
I've enjoyed having you with us, Lisa. I'm going to miss you a lot. We all will.
It's strange. I've only known you a short time, but I feel as if I'm leaving home.
Now, that's the sweetest thing you could tell me. I want you to feel this is a home to you, and to know we'll always be here if you need us. Just think of us as your adopted family.
Oh, I couldn't have a nicer family. I wish I could tell you, Aunt Mary, how grateful I am to you for believing in me, helping me.
You don't need to tell me, my dear. I've already been amply rewarded by knowing that you're on the way toward finding yourself. Oh, here it comes. Remember now, believe in yourself. That's all you have to do.
Well, I'll try not to let you down, Aunt Mary. Honest and truly, I will. I want you to be proud of me. And I'll try my very best so you will be. That's the least I can do to repay you.
And a few moments later, Lisa was gone. That's the least I can do to repay you, Lisa had said. But she had no idea that in finding a solution to her own life, she might also be solving a problem in Aunt Mary's home at the same time. The problem of Peggy Douglas, Aunt Mary's niece, and Bill Meade, who believes Lisa Fenner's baby boy to be his own son. And now for our story. The living room of Aunt Mary's farmhouse this evening was littered with papers and seed catalogs scattered about Lefty's easy chair. In its midst, Lefty, looking happy and industrious. Well, he'd borrowed the breadboard from the kitchen and had neatly thumbtacked to it a sheet of paper on which he was busily sketching. As he worked, he could hear the voice of Peggy Douglas, who was talking to her friend, Jane Plummer, on the telephone. And listening, Lefty thought affectionately of this young girl he knew to be his daughter. Wondered, as he had repeatedly, whether he'd been right to keep from her the knowledge that he was her father. Would he have been able to help her more, guard her from unhappiness, if she'd known he was actually her father? He wasn't sure. And now, after so long, he hesitated to tell her the truth. The main thing he wanted was her happiness. He wanted to see her happily married, with a home of her own. Eventually, children. Yet, every time it looked as if this might come about, something had gone wrong. His thoughts were interrupted by the entrance of the young girl herself. She came up to him and leaned over the back of his chair.
What's that you're drawing, Lefty? It looks like a map showing where to find the hidden treasure.
You mean to say you don't recognize it?
Should I?
Why, sure. This is the layout of the farm.
Huh?
See? This square here's the house. There's the barn. Here's that apple tree in front.
Why, so it is. What's it for?
Well, the idea is I'm figuring out what to plant this spring around the house. Flowers and stuff.
Oh.
I thought if I planned it out scientifically on paper, I could get just the effect I want.
You always have a lovely garden, Lefty. Remember how impressed people were last year? I felt as if we were living in a state park for a while, but with all the sightseers coming out from town.
That's nothing to what I'm going to have this year. It's a funny thing about people with the gardening bug. Next year's garden's always going to be the best ever.
I'll never forget your delphinium last year. They were breathtaking. That mass of blues and purples, almost as pretty as David Bowman's.
What do you mean, almost?
Well, you know, Lefty, that's David's specialty.
Specialty, my eye. I could write a book about what David Bowman doesn't know about delphinium.
Now, Lefty, don't get all excited. I only meant that, after all, David did win first prize in the flower show.
Probably bribed the judges.
What a thing to say, Lefty. You ought to be ashamed.
Well, all I know is if I couldn't raise better delphinium than David Bowman, I'd give up gardening.
Oh, my goodness, if you feel that way, why don't you enter the show yourself? Remember how Aunt Mary and I begged you to last year?
Me enter a flower show like some old fuddy-duddy? Pink tea and ladies in picture hats, speeches and all such tommy rot? Not on your life. I'm a gardener, not a society dude.
All right. But it would be one way to prove your prowess.
I don't have to prove anything. Just you wait and see the results.
I will. And, Lefty, I'll tell you a little secret. I'm, really betting on you anyway.
That's my girl.
The house feels sort of empty with Lisa gone, doesn't it? I was getting to be awfully fond of her.
Yeah, she's a sweet little kid.
She's a lot of fun when she isn't feeling so low, worrying about things.
I'll bet she is.
I had her laughing like anything one night, telling her about the scrapes Randy and I got into when we were kids.
I wouldn't be surprised if that isn't one of her troubles. She missed out on a lot of fun when she was a youngster.
Yeah, she's had a strange life.
Let's hope she manages to snap out of it now, get back on her feet.
In a way, though, I think she hated to leave here. She told me it was the first time in her life she'd ever felt completely at home.
I don't doubt it. Well, maybe Aunt Mary's right about her getting started with her career again. But you know how I feel about Dell Shipley. What good that woman can do is beyond me. However, it remains to be seen.
Didn't you say you were going over to Tom Gardner's tonight?
Yeah. Tom's driving over to Stanton in the morning. I want him to pick up a bale of chicken wire for me. Out of it at Swanson's. I guess I'd better be on my way at that.
Oh, I'll go.
Hello, Peggy.
Oh, come in, Bill.
Hey.
Nice to see you.
Is Aunt Mary home?
No, Aunt Mary went into a lecture at the school. But Lefty's here. He and I were just talking. Lefty, here's Bill.
Good evening, Lefty.
Hello.
You're looking mighty industrious there.
I managed to keep out of mischief. I guess Peggy told you Aunt Mary's not here.
Yeah, I was sorry to hear it. I had something I wanted to tell her.
Well, she probably won't be back until late. Those meetings go on and on. Maybe you better come back tomorrow.
Oh, I don't think it'll be very late, Lefty. Aunt Mary said the speeches were going to be limited to 10 minutes. You might as well wait, Bill. That is, if you have the time.
Tonight time's what I have the most of. On my way over here, I was even thinking I ought to take up a hobby or something.
Well, that's a good idea. Look at Lefty. He keeps busy with that flower garden of his even in the winter.
I doubt if gardening's in Bill's line.
How's your job going, Bill? I saw David Bowman, and he said you were awfully busy.
Yeah, we have been. I enjoy it, though.
That's good. It's nice if you're interested in what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been meeting some swell people, too. People I didn't even know lived in this locality. It's nice to feel you can help them get rolling.
It must be. By the way, Lefty, hadn't you better get started? It's almost 9.
Oh, I'm in no rush.
Oh. Bill, I was thinking I'd make a pot of chocolate. Would you like some?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Lefty, what about you?
No, thank you.
Why don't you come out and give me a hand, Bill?
Okay. See you later, Lefty.
Take your time.
I'm getting to be quite a cook since I've been batching it. I can whip up practically anything that comes out of a can.
Oh, fine. You'll have to come out and make dinner some night so we can try you out. Oh, you mean Lefty?
Yeah, he certainly gives me the old freeze every time I come out.
I know. It's a shame he feels that way. It's just that he's so awfully fond of me. He's apt to be unreasonable sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, well, it isn't that I blame him for wanting to protect you, Peggy, but... Oh, gosh, you and Aunt Mary have been so wonderful, and... Well, Lefty always makes me feel like a first-class heel.
Oh, don't worry about it, Bill. He'll probably get over it eventually.
I don't know. Well, what can I do?
Oh, you just sit down and talk to me. This will only take a few minutes.
Okay.
I'm sorry Randy isn't here tonight. He's been wanting to meet you.
Well, if he's anything like Lefty, he'll probably give me a punch in the nose when he does.
Oh, no. Randy understands how things are. Although he does have a sort of big brotherly attitude toward me from when we were kids. The way that boy used to boss me around just because he was older.
And I suppose you never got back at him either.
Oh, I managed to protect myself pretty well.
I'll bet you did at that. Gosh, it's nice to see you, Peggy. Seems like years. You're looking wonderful.
Well, I've been feeling awfully well lately. Sort of contented in a way. I guess it's because I made up my mind what I wanted.
You did? Do you mind telling me what it is?
Oh, it's very simple. I mean, I realized that I wanted to stay here on the farm, that I didn't belong in the city. This girl who was staying here, Lisa, was a dancer. The more I heard about that sort of life, the happier I was not to be in it. It may be exciting and all that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Peggy, because I went through more or less the same thing when I decided to take this job with David Bowman. I'm awfully glad I did now.
I'm sorry Aunt Mary isn't here.
Well, I'm sort of glad she isn't, Peggy. Now I can tell you first.
Tell me what? Has something new happened?
Yeah. Kit came to see me last night. She told me something very surprising.
Yes?
Peggy, Kit's going to give me a divorce.
Bill wanted to see Peggy's reaction to his news, but at the last minute he didn't dare look at her. Was almost afraid to know what her expression might reveal. And so he hadn't seen Peggy turn away, too, for the same reason. It was something neither of them had really expected to happen. Bill free and Peggy free, too, since Nicholas Dorn understood the situation so well. But would Bill actually be free, Peggy asked herself. There was still the child. Was her feeling for Bill strong enough to surmount such an obstacle? She didn't know. Now for our story. It was a gray, dreary morning in Chicago, but Dell Shipley's apartment was pleasantly warm and cheerful with that smart sort of gaiety which can be achieved by a clever interior decorator. Faintly, Dell could hear the sounds of activity from below, for her living quarters were upstairs over the Golden Peacock, the nightclub she'd been running successfully for more years than she liked to remember. The cleaning women were busy down there now, sweeping up cigarette stubs, straightening tables, waxing the dance floor. They went about their task with silent matter-of-factness in the bleak gray light which filtered through the heavy draperies. Tonight, with the lights, the music and laughter, the fragrance of perfumes and flowers, the place would come alive and Dell would move about, acting her part of hostess, making it go. But now, for a short while, she belonged to herself. She could allow herself to relax, speculate about the future, or think back over the past. She could even forget to smile.
9 o'clock. That kid Aunt Mary phoned about ought to be showing up pretty soon, according to the telegram. I wonder how they all are down at the Lane farm. Aunt Mary didn't say much. Funny when I look back, think of Lefty as he used to be after Joyce left him. He was quite a guy in those days. Now he's turned into a dyed-in-the-wool farmer. If I hadn't kept yapping at him, telling him he ought to look up his kid, find Peggy, maybe everything would have turned out different. Oh, I'm not sorry, really. Lefty's happy. And he seems to be. He's got a home. He's got Aunt Mary to sort of look after him, and Peggy. Peggy. I suppose she'll always stand between us. I guess I've really lost him. And all I was thinking about was his own good. Sure, I didn't want to take the rap for something he hadn't done. I couldn't help it if Peggy got herself into such a spot it looked as if she was mixed up in the murder. But I was supposed to stand around and let him throw his life away. Oh, well. What's the use of thinking about it? Doesn't do any good. Come in.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yeah, and you must be Lisa Fenner. I got Aunt Mary's wire last night. Come on in, dear.
I hope it's all right, my coming directly here. They told me downstairs you were expecting me.
Oh, sure. Sit down, hon.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Have some coffee?
Oh, no, thanks. I had breakfast on the train.
Oh. Well, I'm going to have some more. This is the only time I have to myself all day. I sort of linger over breakfast. I was just telling myself I ought to get dressed before you arrived so I wouldn't be such a mess. I couldn't get up enough steam.
Oh, but you look very nice.
Oh, now, look, Lisa. If we're going to get along, we'll have to be on the level with each other, so don't try to kid me. I look awful and I know it.
Mrs. Shipley, I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your giving me this interview about a job. Since I stopped dancing, I've sort of lost track of things.
Now, relax, kid. If there's anything I can do, I'm happy to do it. You see, Aunt Mary's a good friend of mine. If she's pulling for you, I know you must be okay. And don't call me Mrs. Shipley. Just call me Dell. Everyone does.
Well, thanks.
How were things at the farm when you left? Everything under control?
Oh, just fine. They're such lovely people.
Well, they sure are. All of them. Aunt Mary and Peggy and Lefty. But I don't suppose you saw much of Lefty. He's usually out working around the farm, isn't he?
Yes, but even so, I got to know him pretty well.
What did you think of him?
Think of Lefty? Oh, I like him a lot. He's got such a funny sense of humor.
Yeah.
I thought he was an awfully nice old fellow.
Old fellow? Yes, I guess he would seem like an old fellow at your age.
Oh, I almost forgot. Aunt Mary gave me this letter for you. I guess it's a sort of letter of introduction. Oh, yeah, I've got it right in my bag.
Well, thanks, hon. Well, I'd better go in and put on a face. Will you excuse me? It won't take long. We can talk over details when I come back.
Surely.
You just make yourself at home.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Seems to be a nice kid. Good looking, good figure. Well, perhaps she'll work out all right. Well, let's see what Mary has to say. Dear Dell, thanks so much for... I'm very anxious not to lose track of this girl. It's just an idea, but I think she may be a clue to something here in Wakefield. Wonder what she means by that now. So please keep in touch with me. I do hope you can see your way clear to come down before too long. There's something I want to talk over with you. I think it will interest you. Lisa's a lovely girl, and I believe she's quite a fine dancer. She's very unhappy at present, but if you can only get her started... I don't know what it is that is troubling her, but you may be able to. Some unfortunate experience which has left her with no faith in her own abilities. Anyway, Dell, I know you'll do the best you can. My love to you and Lily, Mary. Nothing about Lefty. Oh, well, I suppose there's nothing to say. Wonder what Aunt Mary means, unfortunate experience. Well, we'll see what happens. No use looking for trouble.
Meanwhile, in the other room, Lisa Fenner waited patiently.
Mrs. Shipley's awfully kind, just because I'm a friend of Aunt Mary's. It's nice of her to be willing to talk to me, but I mustn't forget to tell her how long it's been since I danced. If only I was sure I could do it. When I think of getting out there performing again, it scares me. It wasn't very long ago that I said goodbye to Paul here. And now Lance is here. So many memories. So many.
Dell? Oh, hello.
Oh, Mrs. Shipley's in the other room getting dressed.
Well, I guess I'll come in and make myself comfortable. Boy, what a day. When I woke up this morning and looked out of the window, I had to fight with myself to get out of bed. I should have been born in Mexico or someplace. I go for sunshine and lots of it.
Yes, I don't like these gray days either.
In my line of work, you never see enough sunshine. You stay up until all hours of the night, and of course you... Oh, say, maybe I ought to introduce myself. I'm Lily Devon. What's your title?
I'm Lisa Fenner.
You are? Well, I'll be darned. Lisa, meet your new roommate.
What?
Yeah, Dell and I cooked it up when we heard Aunt Mary was sending you up here. It's still impossible to find a room anywhere, so we had the bright idea you could stay with me. I mean, if it's okay with you.
Well, that's awfully nice of you. I did wonder whether I'd be able to find a place to live. But are you sure it won't be an inconvenience?
Oh, not a bit. If we don't get along, well, I'll just pitch you right out on your ear. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Oh, yes. And I hope I won't have to go out on my ear.
Don't worry. I'm not really so tough as I make out. I remember the first time I met Peggy Douglas. Why, I just about scared the poor kid to death. But she found out my bark was worse than my bite.
I didn't know you knew Peggy.
Ah, sure. I know the whole family. Aunt Mary's swell, isn't she?
Oh, yes. She's been wonderful to me.
I'm sure. That's the kind of person she is. A real good Joe. Yeah, you see, Peggy roomed with me when she lived in Chicago, so I got to know them all pretty well. They were having a lot of trouble at the time, but Aunt Mary was always just as friendly and nice as anything. I get a big laugh out of Lefty, too. He's always squawking about something. But he usually winds up doing things the way Peggy and Aunt Mary want him to.
That's right. I've noticed that, too. He's terribly fond of Peggy.
Oh, brother. Fond, you say? Why, that guy worships the ground Peggy walks on. And does she know it? She winds him right around her little finger, and he loves it.
I guess Lefty's been practically a father to her.
Practically? Why, Oh, yeah. Yeah, he is like a father. Oh, well, anyway, I can see we're going to get along just fine. Anytime things get slow and we don't know what to talk about, why, we'll always have the Lane family. So long as we feel the same about the Lanes, we've got a lot in common.
A lot in common, Lily? Yes, perhaps even more than you realize. Lisa Fenner was wondering just how much Lily Devon did know about Wakefield. Wondering whether she knew Kit Meade, too. She'd have to be careful, Lisa thought. But Lisa had no idea just how smart this wisecracking young woman really could be. If she had any idea of the connection between Lisa Fenner and Kit Meade, it wouldn't take very long for Lily to do something about it.